All right, let's take a look at our state-owned enterprises. Eskom still doesn't have a new CEO after Andre de Ruyter's hastened exit earlier this year. The only candidate the board has put forward for consideration has been rejected by the Public Enterprises Minister. The minister saying the rules state clearly he should have been given 3 options. And now over at Transnet, CEO Portia Derby is out the door with at least one other member of the C-suite following. So, 2 key state-owned enterprises still grappling to overcome years of state capture and mismanagement don't have a leader. Let's discuss this now with the CEO of the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse, Wayne Duvenage. Wayne, thank you so much for joining us. You know, power cuts actually have, if anything, kind of eased over the last few months since Eskom's had no CEO. Do we really need a CEO?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really just coincidence. It's gone up and down, and without the certainty of a plan and implementation thereof, we're always going to have problems. And it takes leadership, and it takes leadership that has the ability to bring about change management. It takes leadership to build a team that is committed and to drive the ethos and the values-based leadership that is required to move these organizations forward. So for as long as you don't have CEOs and CEOs that are given the powers to do what they need to do to fix these organizations, they will continue to flounder and they'll continue to be leaderless. And in that regard, their staff and all the various levels and departments they're in don't understand what the strategy is. You can't carry out the work that you need to do. So we need leaders in the state-owned entities, especially these massive ones that impact directly on our economy.
I was reading an interesting article in the Business Day today, I think by Editor-in-Chief Alexander Parker. He said in any other country, the minister bluntly rejecting the board's choice for CEO would cause an absolute outrage. Of course, the minister is saying, I was meant to get 3 names. What do you make of this? Do you think that there's political interference going on, or do you think that the minister's just a stickler for the rules?
I think there is political interference. You know, it doesn't take this long for the minister to say, hey guys, I need 3 names. He could have done that in May. He could have done it in June. We sit here nearly a year later. Andre de Ruyter gave notice of intention to resign in December last year. So that's not an excuse, I'm afraid, and they need to move a lot faster. I'm sure they could have gone back to him a long time ago with the 3 or 4 or 5 names, or 10 names for that matter. And made the decision by now. So that is political interference, quite frankly. I agree with your statement that in many countries where organizational values and efficiency is promoted, this wouldn't be tolerated. And it's not the first time. There's been far too much political interference in our state-owned entities for far too long. And if you look at the research that's done by Theuns Pelser, Prof. Theuns Pelser and Elias Kaunda on this exact topic, they do find that state-owned entities fail because of the political interference, because of the lack of properly placed and well-appointed managers who can get on with the job.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that political interference means that the wrong person is put at the helm more often than not?
Yes, you know, let's put aside the cadre deployment issue. Very often, I mean, if you just look at Eskom before Andre de Ruyter came along, I think there were 9 CEOs in the matter of 11 years. Transnet has been managed dismally, and Portia Derby lasted 3 years of her 5-year tenure. And quite frankly, she should have been, pushed out rather than allowed to be resigned at this stage, because if her role was to go and fix and turn this organization around, and she's done nothing in that regard. In fact, that organization's gone backwards. So if you start unpacking what happens with political interference, I mean, we saw in Eskom right in the beginning when Andre de Ruyter was appointed, he needed to do retrenchments, he needed to stop salary increases, and he was stopped from doing that. Now, that organization needed productivity improvements. It needed a halt on all these salary increases. They're highly paid as an organization. And if you're not allowed to do that, and those instructions come from your political masters, that is direct political interference, and that creates a mess for the organization.
It's interesting, though, with Portia Derby's exit from Transnet, you know, one of the things that she's being accused of is that her plan to try and trim down the wages and try and trim down the staff by offering voluntary severance packages just saw an exit of some of the top talent from Transnet. So she's being blamed for that. Presumably, though, she wouldn't have acted alone. Presumably, if there is this level of political interference, she would have been told what to do. So why does she carry the can alone?
Well, I think if you're the CEO and you're given the task of turning this organization around and you don't do that, then you have to take the blame. It's on your watch. Whether you've allowed the political interference, whether you've not dealt with the real issues that had to be dealt with, either way, if there's political interference, then you got to deal with that and walk away a lot sooner than she did. I've spoken to a number of potential people who could go and head up Eskom, and they are real change agents. These are individuals that have done turnaround strategies in big organizations with electricity, qualifications and that. And their view is, unless there's a very clear strategy around no political interference, they would not take these positions because it's just, you're going to waste time, you're going to waste the country's time, and you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve. Let me give you another example. I think if Telkom had not gone the route of having a large chunk of its shares owned by private equity, Telkom would have been dead in the water. It would have been another post office by now. So fortunately, they were staved and saved of becoming defunct because of lesser political interference, because the new shareholders that come in will not tolerate that. While you have 100% state-owned entities like this, you're going to have this problem.
It seems like you can't win either way, because if you come in and you're not really a political appointee, you don't have the clout to get things done necessarily in a state-owned enterprise. And if you are a political appointee, you'll do what you're told, presumably, or maybe you don't have quite the right qualifications, but you're loyal. How do we deal with this going forward? Because Andre de Ruyter was seen as, not a political appointee. Obviously, Pravin Gordhan thought he was the right man for the job. Portia Derby, she's out now. We are looking at two really key institutions that have a direct impact on how our economy functions without leaders. How do we fix this?
Well, you certainly can't have a political appointee. You cannot have civil servants and people who don't have the understanding. Unless there are a couple of out there, then let's find them. But you need to bring in, and you need to go worldwide if need be, because these are two critical institutions to our economy. You need to find the change agents. Now, these are people that come in and build the structure and the strategy, or the strategy first and then the structure that flows to fix Eskom. And they need to be given the reins, Eskom and Transnet, which is in a dire situation. And those are generally not political appointees. They cannot be civil servants. You go and find the right people and you allow them the freedom to go ahead and do what has to be done, obviously within some boundaries, but those boundaries must be minimal. And get on with it. This is how companies that are floundering and mergers take place, and they go in and they fix them. They get the culture right. They get the values-based leadership strategies right. All of that has to happen. Otherwise, you're going to have what you've got now. And Andre de Ruyter was probably not the wrong person. He wasn't maybe the best person out there. He had his flaws in that, but he lasted longer than the last 9 CEOs, and he had more time to do. But he just said, I can't operate in this space. And I think largely the same thing has happened with Portia Derby. But as I said, she needs to take a lot of the blame, because she probably needed to walk away a lot sooner had she not been given the reins in the way that she needed to fix Transnet. So if you want to play the politics game, if the ministers want to interfere and they want to put in the right person who they think is the best that they can manipulate and manage, well, we're not going to go anywhere with these two institutions, and our economy will suffer as a result of it.
Yeah, and if we take a deeper look at Transnet, not only has there been a big skills exodus, but there's been, Transnet was not able to capitalize on the commodities boom. Yes, there are a lot of other problems facing Transnet. It was hollowed out by state capture, let's face it. There are massive problems with infrastructure. Is it perhaps fair to say that it'll be very difficult for anyone to fix?
No, I don't think so. It gets more and more difficult as the longer you wait. But like anything, you can fix. You're going to just have to put in more time and money. But you can't wait and continuously go down this road of procrastination and taking ages to put in the right people. You need to have a very clear strategy. I think government needs to get business around the table, civil society, some really hot strategic think tank sessions to just decide how it's going to fix these organizations or allow it to be fixed, and then get on with the job and stop interfering. Otherwise, privatize them. Go down that route, and that's not necessarily the right route, because then you get held to ransom by private companies owned. So you don't want the infrastructure lost, but you want privatization and use of the rail networks, for instance. That's something they've been discussing for years now. But you can't not do anything. So they are fixable. Like anything, it's fixable. The longer you take, the more it's going to cost. And we don't have the money. So we're in dire straits with both of these organizations and many others, by the way.
Yeah, we don't have the money and we don't have the time. So your message, stop interfering or privatize these ailing state-owned entities. Thank you so much. That is the CEO of the organization Undoing Tax Abuse, Wayne Duvenage of Outer.